Welcome everybody back on this fine Monday. We have a great piece here for you which you're going to want to watch all the way through till the end, because Jim Rodgers anticipates some very tough times are ahead, based on a few things which he has been saying in the past year or so, but let's now have a look at how that is playing out in real time. So first let's have a look at who Jim Rodgers is. Now he is an American investor and financial commentator who is actually based in Singapore. He is the chairman of Beeland Interests Inc. and he was a co-founder of the Quantum Fund and Soros Fund Management. He is also the creator of the Rodgers International Commodities Index. He is an esteemed commentator, as we can tell, and he has a great background and he has some very interesting opinions on what is happening and what is going to happen in the markets. Let's have a look at what some of these are. So one big thing which I can take away from what he has been saying is that the markets will be setting the rates rather than, say, the Fed. He says that central banks do have a lot of power, and they probably always will, but markets can take that power away from them. Central banks will try and fix prices and provide a level of what assets are worth. An example that I gave was, for example, the euro is worth X against the dollar. So we can see how that is playing out and how this is tried to be structured, but really what he is saying is that this can be altered by the markets themselves. Because what the politicians and central banks are going to do is try and protect their jobs and their politicians, when in actuality, when we have a look, the markets have more money in total than, say, the Fed. And he believes that betting against the central banks has been a great way to make money in the past, as the markets again have more power, more money themselves than the Federal Reserve. He also notes that money printing will only make things worse, for reasons which he outlines. So let's have a look at a few of his beliefs when it comes to the effects on money printing. Now initially, this will look great, as we all saw in the past 2 years. We had that massive rally up, we had stimulus, and it all looked so good. But he notes the premise of MMT, where the concept is to simply print more and more money to alleviate the problems. Again, that is somewhat similar to what we have been seeing in the past 2 years. Now he thinks that this is not something which is sustainable, and reality will have to set in at some point, and this has been proven time and time again. So let's have a look at what is going to happen in the future. Now, with the markets being the way they are, and with the currency, the dollar, for example, being the way it is, a lot of people may be looking towards, say, crypto. And here's Jim's opinions on crypto. Now, he is a big believer, I could tell from the words, or at least that is how it seemed, that crypto is something which can go well. He says that all money will be on the computer eventually. He noted China and how that is already something which they are doing. He says, many cryptos will inevitably go to zero, as there are thousands, if not more, which are currently in circulation, and all of them, or at least most of them, will probably fail. He believes that the Gov will try to create a crypto, as politicians and the government as a whole just don't want to lose that power. He also thinks that crypto can be great if you are a good trader, but it shouldn't be seen as the next dollar-style reserve currency. And the reason why he said this is that the government can do anything, from making their own, but also potentially controlling it. He gave one example, which was Myanmar and the shutdown of the internet. Now again, if the internet was shut down, say in the US, well, people wouldn't be able to access crypto, and that could have a big effect. Now, whilst nobody's saying that is something which will be done, just have a think about it, and it is something which could be a real-term problem going forwards. So the conclusion very quickly, because this has been a relatively short video, so I do hope that you watched it until the end. The people who know what they are doing in this period will come through very well, in sparkling and flying colours is what he said. He notes that most people in the Great Depression actually got very, very poor, but some got extremely rich. He says that the preparation is vital, and he says that coming into the next 100 years, things will not be like what they were in the past 100 years. He notes that in the past 100 or so years, people were a bit more ignorant. People didn't really have as much knowledge on the wider world and how things worked, but he thinks that nowadays, with the accessibility to financial markets from basically everybody, those who know what they are doing, those who prepare, will come out well. So just to add a little bit onto the end of that, I am thoroughly in agreement with this part of Jim's ideas. I think those who have prepared already knew what was coming, and that's what we're trying to cover in this series as a whole. I think that is why the preparation is so key. Now, other things about what Jim said which I find interesting is some of his opinions on money printing and markets setting the rates. So let's have a look at the main pieces which I found particularly interesting quickly. So what I found interesting is that he says that the markets will set the rates, saying that the Fed will have less control as the markets are coming to the point where they already are. Now, I do find this one to be interesting. Again, like I always say, I am not a professional, but I do find this point particularly interesting, and I think going off his analysis and the historical evidence which he uses, it will be very, very interesting to see how that does play out. Again, looking on the other points which he mentioned, the effects on money printing is something which I do agree with, and there will probably be a consequence for this. Just a few episodes ago, we spoke about the Fed, and how the Fed have noted now that some pain may be ahead in the current markets. And I think it's really interesting that Jim also does note this by saying that over time this money printing philosophy just won't work forever. Now, one more interesting thing which I found particularly unique was Jim's opinion on crypto. Again, he is somebody which actually thinks that crypto is a viable option, which is quite unique in this space. Again, a lot of people at his level just do want to deny crypto straight through. So to see him actually say yes, it is something which can work well, is great to see. But I do also note the point that he says about the potential of the government controlling and regulating it, and also creating their own. So we covered Jim in this series, and I find it really interesting to look at his opinions. Again, it's very interesting in comparison to just Cathie Wood that we looked at yesterday. So we will have to see which one of these people has the most accurate opinion. But the whole intention of this series is to bring you as many ideas from as many different sources as possible, so I do hope this one was another useful one for you guys. Again, if you enjoy this sort of stuff, do subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again.